Okay, I'm doing something a little different. I just wanted to do some brief speculating on some of the Easter eggs that were in the most recent episode of Picard. So there will be some minor spoilers for season 3, episode 6. And I didn't really go into it too much in my review. I mostly just lamented the sheer ungodly amount of references. But I didn't really spend too much time on anyone in particular. And the one that really sticks out for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people feel the same way, is the glimpse at Kirk's skeleton at the Daystrom station. And I'm a little concerned that it's not just a meaningless Easter egg. I think it could be worse than that. I think it might be an attempt to resurrect the Captain Kirk character for 25th century Star Trek stories. And when it appears in the show, I instantly thought of Mass Effect, which I know is something I've brought up a couple of times, but in Mass Effect, your character, Commander Shepard, dies at one point and is resurrected with experimental science and technology. And this scene looks very similar to that process. And looking at Kirk's skeleton here, it really reminded me of that. But does that mean that William Shatner will come back to play Captain Kirk? Personally, I kind of doubt it. And a friend of mine, Will Stape, shared some thoughts on that with me earlier. If you don't know Will, he wrote a couple of episodes of Star Trek, The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. He's also written a fun book about the original series. He has a very cool podcast and a YouTube channel, and I'll link all his stuff in the description below. And Will sent me an audio clip about a possible rift between William Shatner and Paramount. And I'll just play it for you right now. Here's Will.
Hey, Eddie. Let's talk William Shatner, Captain Kirk, and Picard. Very good. I loved how eagle-eyed you were because you brought it to me. It sort of flickers by so quick on screen on the monitor. And what occurred to me, after ranting myself about it in a video pretty much, but there was an article, this comes about 2 weeks ago. It's from hollywoodintoto.com. Title of the article is Paramount Feuding with William Shatner. Star Trek marketing campaign snubs Captain Kirk, ageless star isn't surprised. So it's a fairly long article. This is the real core. You ready? Chris Gore, founder of Film Threat and host of the Film Threat podcast, thinks the snub is no accident. Quote, the exclusion of James T. Kirk in modern Star Trek marketing is yet another example of efforts to diminish Shatner's contribution and to emasculate strong male characters on TV and at the movies. Gore says, there would be no Star Trek without Kirk. William Shatner creates an iconic character whose passion for exploring strange new worlds spawned a generation of fans. And I gotta agree in many ways. Now, it might be more personal between Shatner and Paramount. And when he tweeted about it, all he said is, "Does this doesn't surprise you, or this surprises you?" with like a laughing face. Yeah. Again, this is Shatner. So yeah, he tweeted. He says, "And that surprises you?" with the rolling on the floor, laughing out loud. So there you go. I mean, look, we'd have to get more information if both for both sides, Paramount and Shatner, but it looks like there's a real kind of chasm, and there's always back and forth between corporate Paramount and that entity and William Shatner. But for them not to include him in a marketing campaign and then in the Picard episode showing his skeleton, I mean, fuck, right? So there you have it, my friend. Live long and prosper, right? I don't know how we can with Picard around, but we'll try.
So thanks a lot to Will. I appreciate that. And there seems to be a lot of speculation in that article. We don't know the ins and outs or anything, but I think there's probably some truth to the idea that William Shatner is not really getting along with Paramount people. As far as I know, every time he's been asked about playing Kirk again, he said he has no interest. But that's fairly recent, because I remember there was a time where he did seem interested. I think it was around the time of the Abrams movies. He seemed more open to the idea, maybe because Leonard Nimoy was in them. But just within the last 5 or 10 years, he's been very against it. And I think seeing his skeleton, or Kirk's skeleton on screen in Picard, I think is a little insulting. I don't know if there's any malice on the part of the showrunner, Terry Matalas, or anyone behind the scenes. It's all just speculation. But I think it could be even worse than that, because I don't think that it's a coincidence that they showed the Genesis device right before that, right before we see Kirk. I think they are maybe considering writing a story where the Genesis device is used to regenerate Kirk, just like it did for Spock. You know, as Carol Marcus said, it creates life from lifelessness, right? And if they do that, it doesn't even have to be William Shatner playing him. It could be a younger version. I mean, the only reason Spock kept growing in Star Trek 3 was because he was on the Genesis planet long enough for that to happen. So they could just expose Kirk to these Genesis waves until he reaches the age of 30 and then stop it. So it could be Chris Pine, or it could be the guy who plays him on Strange New Worlds, Paul Wesley. Probably Paul Wesley, because he'll be a hell of a lot cheaper than Chris Pine. And they'll just have this young Kirk running around, trying to make his way in 25th century Star Trek. And they'll probably trot out all the characters that seem to despise Star Trek's biggest icons to tell him how shitty he is. They'll have Captain Shaw recite every wrong thing Kirk ever did, or Admiral sheer fucking hubris to tell him he's an asshole. And that'll be like the whole show. Kirk, old Kirk in a young body, learning how to behave like a Starfleet bootlicker. I hope it doesn't happen. I'm exaggerating, obviously. I'm sure that wouldn't be the whole premise, but can they please do something new? Leave the Easter eggs behind and create new characters that don't need to rely on iconic ones. You know, if the new Trek writers wrote for The Next Generation, it would be a mess. Data would have been built by Spock, and every episode would have at least half a dozen references to the original series. Finnegan would play an evil admiral. Okay, Harry Mudd would probably be a fucking Starfleet ambassador. It would be just a disaster. Just do something different, please. I don't care if it's bad. Just do something different. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Thanks to Will for joining in. And let me know what you thought about this. Was this episode a gateway into another possible Star Trek spinoff? Star Trek Kirk? Is that coming soon? Let me know what you think. And until next time, take it easy.